Are you tired of endless Google Ads tutorials that only scratch the surface? Do you want to move beyond the how and finally understand the why behind a winning Google Ad strategy? Welcome to the Google Ad Strategy Hub podcast, your guide to mastering the engine that drives your business growth. I'm your host, a seasoned Google Ads expert dedicated to helping business owners like you unlock the full potential of your Google Ads campaigns. Each week, we're going to dive deep into the strategies that deliver real results, helping you think like a strategist and not like a technician or a lever puller. Ready to transform your Google Ads? Let's get started. The problem isn't Google Ads or the platform. It is the approach. It's also the lack of solid decision making. Most content out there teaches you which buttons to click, the how, but it completely misses the why. That is why I started this. Why does a certain bid strategy work for one campaign and not another? Why does it work for one business and not another? Why is understanding your customer's journey just as important as keyword research? Why do you need to think about negative keywords, the return on ad spend, the CPCs? This is the gap that we are going to start filling together. This podcast is for the business owner, the marketing manager, the entrepreneur who really wants to become a true strategist. I spent years working in paid search. I started in 2007 working in-house and at agencies, turning underperforming accounts into revenue drivers. I've worked with large companies that you've definitely heard of, as well as small businesses and even auto dealerships. There really isn't anything that I haven't seen. And now I'm going to share a strategic framework that I absolutely love. Today's framework is the rule of 100, making data-driven decisions. And it's an old school, reliable method for analyzing your account data. And it's something to think about. I think about it as a non-negotiable for making really, really sound decisions in accounts. I actually use this concept pretty universally in my life. I'm using it on this YouTube channel, on this podcast. I use it in sales outreach. And I started using it way back in 2007 when I was first learning how to do PEEP. The rule of 100 is actually fairly simple. Before you make any decision about a keyword, whether to keep it, pause it, change it, demote that match type from broad down to phrase, down to exact, it needs to have at least 100 clicks. Why 100? Because 100 clicks is a minimum data point that you want to have that is going to be statistically significant in a given set of information. It is a magic number that moves you from that gut feeling to an actual database decision. Below 100 clicks, you actually don't have enough information to know if that keyword is truly working or not. You might think you know, but you don't definitely know. Let me give you an analogy. Pretend you're trying to figure out if you want to go to a new restaurant. You wouldn't go look at reviews and see 2 reviews and just say, yes, this is what I want to go for. If you had 100 reviews or more, you would really get a sense of that overall experience. Same with buying on Amazon. It's a rule that applies here too. The problem that I see often today in 2025 is a problem of impatience. I see it all the time, especially with newer paid search managers, is that they get way too impatient. They're worried about things not working. When a keyword gets just 20 or 30 clicks, that immediate reaction is to change that match type, pause the keyword, even delete it from the campaign altogether. And what happens is they're looking at the conversions and they're seeing 0 or maybe 1, and they're assuming that that keyword somehow is a failure. But if you're honest with yourself, what can you really conclude from 20 or 30 clicks? Not much, just like the restaurant example. And when you think about it, the algorithm is doing its job. But every campaign and every keyword has a learning phase. And it's a concept that we talk about constantly in paid search, especially now that we're moving to smart bidding a long time ago. And these strategies like maximize conversions, maximize clicks even, target CPA, target ROAS, these smart bidding strategies, they need data. They're hungry for data. But they're powerful, but they're not magic. That machine learning models, they're going to need a certain amount of data to become efficient, just like we would if we were doing that manually. When you think about the bidding algorithms, they are using a wide range of signals. They're using location, time, day, device, even users' past search behavior to make these real-time bid adjustments for every single auction. They cannot do that effectively without that data. And again, that is why we talk so much about this. But the problem is, as people, we often want that instant gratification, especially in Google Ads, because we're spending so much money. We'll launch a new campaign, we'll get it to the point where we'll put it on smart bidding, and after a few days of low data, we get really frustrated and want to make a drastic change or want to shout that it's not working. We're essentially taking our own human impatience and blaming the algorithm, saying it's broken, when it's really just trying to learn. And the truth is, if you were still doing this manually and making that decision on your own, the situation would still be the same. You wouldn't have enough data to make a confident decision either. So the rule of 100, it's not some arbitrary number. It's a minimum data threshold for making statistically sound decisions, which is really what we want to do here. It applies just as much, if not more, in the world of smart bidding. Without it, you're not really optimizing, you're just reacting, and you're not actively helping your account. You're hindering the very algorithms that are designed to help you and your account. So what are some solutions? You can change the time frame. That is the beauty of the rule of 100. It gives you control. So let's say you're looking at your data for the past 30 days and a keyword only has 50 clicks. You don't have enough data to make a decision. So what is your next move as the human behind this? You can simply change the time frame. Instead of looking at the last 30 days, extend your view to the last 60 days, the last 90 days, or even way more. The goal is really to get that keyword to that 100-click threshold. And so once it crosses that line, you have a meaningful data set to be able to analyze it and tell what's going on with the performance, whether it's converting at a good rate or the cost for conversion is acceptable or not, or if it's just not working for your goals. So what happens if a keyword never reaches 100 clicks? This happens all the time. There are going to be times, no matter how long you let it run, it just doesn't get that 100-click threshold. In these cases, it's not actually about forcing a decision, even though we're talking about this as being a decision-making tool here. Instead, it's really looking at how you want to think about that keyword. So what you need to do here is broaden your perspective and think about that modern structure of your campaigns. In the old days, ad groups were often built around these single exact match keywords because the matching was a lot tighter. But today in 2025, we have machine learning and our ad groups are built around themes. They're thematic as opposed to exact match in a one-to-one relationship. So when you have an ad group with a handful of keywords, the algorithm is matching to a variety of user search queries to the keywords in the group. It's thematic. It creates a many-to-one relationship. Many search terms are funneling into one keyword in that one ad group. So this is where the rule of 100 becomes even more powerful. Maybe a specific keyword, for example, something like pizza delivery near me, it only has 20 clicks. So that happens all the time. You can't really make a decision around that keyword, especially if you're geo-targeting to a super small area. But that ad group that it belongs to, which might also include other keywords like local pizza places and maybe like order pizza online, that has a total of 500 clicks at the ad group level. So now you can step back and look at that performance of the entire group and see how that contributes and look at the cost per acquisition and the different data points. What about the conversion rate? But what you're really doing is you're looking at that. And so you can make a much more informed decision. You can't just pause that single keyword, or you could, but you're really thinking about the ad group as a whole and is that performing well? So the keyword is contributing to the overall success of the group. This is the essence of modern paid search today in 2025, and it's going to get even more like that. It's not just about managing those lists of individual keywords, it's managing a collection of strategic themes, and your decisions should reflect that broader data-rich environment that we're working in today. Again, keeping in mind this framework. So once you've looked at the ad group level and you've gotten that perspective, what about the campaign level? I'm going to tell you that the campaign level, you need to proceed with caution. So we've moved up again, but what about the campaign? The campaigns are collections of ad groups that are all thematically related. So when you think about a campaign, you might be matching deep dish pizza, gluten-free pizza, pizza near me, or even delivery with a town name. You could certainly view data at this level, but I would strongly advise against making like those hands-on optimizations at the campaign level. So for example, saying this campaign isn't working, we're just going to chop this campaign without digging deep. You need to think about the campaign as sort of like the macro level. And if you're not looking at it like that, you can be misled pretty quickly. For example, you might see a campaign with a very high return on ad spend, meaning it is really, really efficient. And it looks fantastic on the surface, but when you dig in, you realize it's a very low traffic campaign. The high ROAS isn't a result of this amazing performance. It's because the traffic is so low, it hasn't met that data threshold to show a more accurate picture at this point in time. In this scenario, you would just leave that campaign running, because the ROAS is so high, you recognize it's contributing to the overall funnel, but it's contributing in a minimal way. You can't declare it a roaring success because there's just not enough data. The reverse is also true. So you might see a campaign with a ton of traffic, but an extremely low ROAS. This is your cue to actually dig deeper. It's a signal, but not necessarily a decision point. You're going to want to use that as a barometer and figure out where the problems are by digging into the ad groups, like I had said above, and then continue to dig in past that ad groups to the keywords to find the culprits and the problems in that campaign. The campaign level, the way I see it today, is best used for monitoring performance and trends, and then also budget allocation and high-level ROAS. So think about it as a dashboard, not necessarily that control panel. Your hands-on optimization would remain at the ad group level, the keyword level, and then that's where you're going to have that granular data that you're going to need to apply the rule of 100 effectively to make those informed decisions. So in conclusion, because I gave you a lot here about the rule of 100, it is your guardrail against making emotional, low data decisions. It forces you to be the patient person that you've been trained to do and rely on actual numbers rather than assumptions and your gut. So really think about, before you pause, change, or delete a keyword, does this keyword have at least 100 clicks? If your answer is no, then your job isn't to necessarily in that keyword altogether, it's to gather more data. If it never gets to 100, then expand your analysis up to that ad group level. It isn't just about being patient, it's about being smart in that decision. Your strategy, if you take it to this level, ensures you're optimizing your campaigns with a clear head and a solid foundation. And this really is a proven method that has worked since at least 2007 in my world. So a quick actionable tip: before you go into your campaigns, pull up your top 10 keywords by spend and look at the click data for each one of those keywords over the last 30 days. How many of them actually have less than 100 clicks? And if you find any, resist that urge to change them, but be aware. And then what you could do is you could change that time frame to 60 or 90 days. And the goal is not necessarily to make a decision, but to gather that data. Let that rule of 100 be your guide to your process. It is really a good, reliable way to ensure you're optimizing based on facts, not impatience. Also, join me the next time as we dive into another topic to master your paid search campaign strategy. That is a wrap of this episode of Google Ads Strategy Hub podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we uncovered this tried and true principle, the rule of 100. It's not just a guideline, it's a mindset shift. It's about stepping back, being patient, letting the data tell the story before you make the decisions. It is a kind of strategic thinking that separates the good accounts from the truly, truly great ones. Remember, the rule of 100 isn't just about clicks. It's about that discipline and that hands-off approach in your decision-making. It's about resisting the urge to react from emotion and to fairly give data a chance to succeed. You're watching the early data and you're trusting the process. If you're managing a small campaign or a multi-million-dollar campaign, this rule is still a safeguard. It's against that impulse that you want to make that could derail your performance. My goal with this entire podcast is to empower you to look beyond the dashboard and understand the why. Because when you understand this why, you're not just managing campaigns, you're building a system that works for your business. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify so you never miss an episode. Your support helps me reach more business owners and marketers just like you who are ready to take their campaign and their strategy in Google Ads to the next level. Ready to apply these strategies directly to your business? I'd love to help. Visit my website, book a one-on-one strategy call, or request a comprehensive audit. Or learn more about my build and train services, where I set up your account for success and then I teach you how to run it like a pro. All the links are in the show notes. Before I go, let me leave you with one final thought. The rule of 100 is not just a number. It's a commitment to a smarter, data-driven decision-making. So next time you're tempted to go in and make a quick change in your account, ask yourself, do I have enough data to really make this decision? If the answer is a no, take a step back, get a coffee, adjust your time frame, and then let the data guide you. Thanks for listening. Now go be strategic, trust the process, and let the rule of 100 lead the way. Happy marketing.